And you have 5 participants waiting.
Okay. I will now gavel tap. I will now call to order the September 9th, 2020 Middleton Planning Board meeting. Please be advised that all are video recorded and broadcast live to the public, or are reproducible to the public, as we'll say during this COVID time period. First on the agenda is the minute. Has everyone read the minutes?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me? This is Brian Carroll.
Yes, I can.
Okay, sorry. Had to do that manually. I'm here.
All right, Brian, we'll just give you a second. We just gavel this to order. You haven't missed a thing. We're just about to vote on the minutes. The first thing on the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none. If not,
No.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the August 12th, 2020 meeting minutes of the Middleton Planning Board. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
All right, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
So that was
Should I do a roll call?
Louis?
Yes.
Okay. And do you want to call Mr. Garber, Mr. York, and Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Clerk? Who is that aye from?
Jeff.
All right.
Brian Carroll, aye.
All right. I vote aye. So that was 5 ayes, I believe. Minutes are adopted.
Wait, was Nick going to do that?
It was McGlone who did that. I jumped in.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we're going to go to item number 2, the ZBA recommendations. Is that correct, Katrina?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to
All right.
promote Jill to panelist because this is promote to panelist.
By the way, Katrina, I got rid of the duplicate agenda and uploaded the report to the OneDrive.
Oh, good, perfect. Jill, are you in here?
I am now.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure how it works because when you try to get into the webinar, it just cycles. And when it's past the time, I didn't know if I just had the wrong information.
What do you mean it cycles?
So when you try to log in, like with the other logins, when you don't do the webinar, it has a different screen and it stops. When you log in for this webinar, it's just like a constant cycle and you're really not sure if you have
yeah, I've never experienced it from the other end.
Yeah, and that's why I kept texting everybody. I'm like, okay, I have no idea if I have the right stuff, and I didn't get let in before 7, so you don't know. It's really
right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, strange. Anyway, I digress. I apologize. I just thought maybe you should know it's an odd screen. May I start?
Okay, well, just announce that it's item A under the ZBA recommendations. It's a recommendation only. This Greg Stefano special permit and site plan approval to allow contracting and landscaping business in outdoor equipment storage. And this will be a vote to recommend the ZBA with regard to the provision of water, wastewater disposal, stormwater management, roadway and design and construction, and the provision of other utilities, section 9.5.8 of the bylaw.
So good.
Ms. Mann, I think you have the floor.
Yes, good evening. Jill Mann here on behalf of Greg Stefano, the applicant in connection with the redevelopment of 628 Rockaway. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a reference to prior projects. If you remember, last month we did a recommendation for 11 Rockaway as well as 329 North Main Street. This is part of that full redevelopment of that area. This project is being sold by the owners of those properties. Jill Deacon, who owns Midtown Place, she is actually trying to redevelop the area. And I think I had indicated before that this was going to be coming and that we were going to show even more redevelopment of this area. So if I may, this property consists of 2 separate lots. Each lot is improved by a rather dilapidated residential structure. They were occupied by multiple residents and not just a single family home, but there were reasons why it wasn't fully permitted properly. And these are still just single family homes, despite the fact that they have been occupied by multiple apartments, basically. But Mr. Stefano is intending to raise these 2 structures, which you can see. Is my screen working, Katrina? Am I pointing? Can you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Can you take my hand?
Yep, that's what I want to do. Yep. Okay, so here's the first single family home. Here's the second. As I said, it consists of 2 lots, 6 and 8. So 6 Rockaway is an undersized lot. 8 is obviously an oversized lot. Together they form about 85,000 square feet. The proposal is to raise this structure as well as the other single family home. I'm going to show you the next page to show you the, if it will let me go there.
Oh, sorry. I keep taking my mouse.
Yeah, you did, and I can't. Okay, here we go. Do I have it back? Okay, here we go. So as you can see, all of the structures, on that property as they existed are being removed. So it's a complete raise and redevelopment. The proposal is to construct approximately 11,000 square feet of building. Mr. Stefano, intends to do this in phases. So the first phase would be to add this L-shaped building and then to have a paved outdoor storage area in the back. Mr. Stefano owns Stefano Landscaping. Initially, he will occupy this area for his business. And here you can see the redevelopment. So again, it's the L-shaped building. Here's the parking that he's preparing. And again, here's the outdoor storage. It's a very low impact use. Here's the single dumpster for the use. And, we have the proposed landscaping shown. The road itself is Rockaway Road. It's a private road. It's going to be repaved along the breadth of this particular portion of the roadway that will then extend beyond to where those other properties that you had recommended approval to, 6 to 8, 11 Rockaway. So this is just, again, part of that redevelopment. I apologize. I think Mr. Bonugli had raised his hand, Mr. McGlone. So I don't know if you want me to stop, Mr. Bonugli.
You want to save questions to the end, or?
Oh, up to you. I mean, I can, all I was really going to say is we're just simply seeking out a special permit to be able to occupy this by contractors and to have the outdoor storage. And then obviously site plan approval to be able to redevelop the property and to place the structures and the parking and the pavement as shown.
Dave, you mind if I ask a few questions?
Go right ahead, please.
All right, so Katrina, after I reviewed the package, I didn't see any elevation drawings or what the structure is going to look like from the outside.
No.
I actually have some. And I just couldn't get them in time because of the architect. It's just it's a flat front building. I can.
What's the roof? Are you going to have peaked roofs or flat roofs?
No, flat roof.
HVAC systems on the roofs?
Absolutely on the roof. Yes. All HVAC on the roof because there's no place to put it on the ground.
So on the Silverstone side or the Rockaway side, the facades are going to be the same? Are the facade elements, like the siding, going to be the same on the sides, on the back of the building, or are they going to do anything special in the fronts?
No, it's all going to be just metal siding, and you can see that the doors, so there'll be overhead doors where those parking spaces are, Mr. Bonugli. So all along here is just overhead doors, and then the same thing in this area. This will be the only area against this face of the wall that will have the landscaping. usually we'll go before the ICDRC and they'll give us some recommendations. And we plan on doing that. And I don't know, probably, I don't know when they'll hold the meeting.
Single story, dual
Single
story?
One
single-
story, yeah,
So
single
no
story with
mezzanine up above? It's just
the ability to add a mezzanine, but we will not put one in unless somebody comes in. So the steel structure will be sufficient to have structural components to handle the installation of a mezzanine, but there's no intent to put one in.
Gotcha. I'm good.
Thank you.
All right, I think I'll ask a question.
Please.
These are separate items, but my concern in voting for A is what's happening in B and C. And so these are abutting addresses with the special permit for the site plan approval to install an electric message board. Is that an abutting piece of property?
No, those are completely separate. They're just listed as A, B, and C because they're under ZBA recommendations, but they're wholly unrelated.
Forget I said that. Thank you.
No
Go ahead.
worries.
Go ahead, Ms. Mann.
That's it. I mean, so we're basically just here seeking a recommendation. And I really do think that this will be one of the important steps in redeveloping this part of Middleton. And it will allow this area with 11 and 329 to really be renovated. It's going to make a big difference.
But you know, are these construction bays like right over the town line in North Andover? They have that I think very well done construction bay.
Yep, very similar to that, and also right here, Mr. McGlone,
Yeah.
in this area, and then I can't go any further. But if you can see down here, it's construction bays as well. Yeah, so this area is in front. This is really this property, in my opinion, marks the last one that really should be developed is industrial. Even though the town rezoned all the way and back industrial, there's a lot of, there are maybe 5 or 6 residential homes behind this property that are residential. But this property here is commercial, and obviously directly across the street is the motel, the old Candlelight that's now closed down.
Okay, and I know this is just a recommendation, and we're not taking unsolicited comments from non-parties. Katrina, is there any way to determine whether anybody's raising their hand with respect to this?
There is no one raising their hand.
Okay. Okay. So does anybody have any comments or stipulations? Is any of the board members with respect to what's happening here, or any more questions?
Actually, I do have a question. So the proposed, just Jill, let's touch base real quick on the proposed outdoor storage area. So that entire area at the rear of the lot, is that all going to be entirely fenced in with a gate towards, let's see, where like unit 1's going to be, that gate's going to be right there, and that opens into that whole rear lot's going to be entirely fenced?
Yeah, which it's intentional that lot 1, I mean, I apologize. Bay 1 has the exit point because that most likely would be the one that Greg takes. And then the entire rear is completely fenced. So it's all fenced. And then if you will, right here, can you see my pointer again?
Yes,
Okay, so right here is where the fence will be, and right here's the gate.
I got you.
So it is intended to be secured and to delineate exactly where storage can happen. Because if you notice here are wetlands, we do maintain the 25-foot buffer. This is the storm water. And we're definitely putting a fence so that people don't go beyond what is allowed.
Katrina, any letters from abutters or anybody, anything like that?
No, this isn't a public hearing for the planning board. We just do a recommendation. And so if there were any abutters, they would go to the ZBA meeting.
Understood. Okay.
But also, we did get comments, Mr. Bonugli, from all of the department heads, and no one had any negative comments about it.
Okay.
All right, so is there any conditions or comments that anybody wants to make with respect to potential motion to allow item A? Okay, so we'll entertain a motion for a special permit and site plan approval to allow the contracting and landscaping businesses and outdoor equipment storage at 6 to 8 Rockaway Road. Greg Stefano. Is there such a motion?
Was that a motion to make a recommendation?
A motion to make a positive recommendation,
Okay.
apparently without conditions. So is there a motion for a positive recommendation to allow a special permit and site approval plan to allow contracting and landscaping business and outdoor equipment storage at 6 to 8 Rockaway Road? Greg Stefano.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion and repeat exactly you just said to approve the special permit at 6 to 8 Rockaway Road based on for Greg Stefano to allow the contracting and landscaping business and outdoor equipment storage. For a recommendation to the ZBA. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Now,
Who was that?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yeah.
now,
Okay.
Dave, do you want me to do a roll call or you want to do the roll call?
Yeah, please do start with me.
Dave McGlone,
Aye.
Nick Benugli, aye. Jeff Garber,
Aye.
Brian York,
Aye.
Ryan Carroll.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes.
Thank you very much.
Next item of business is item B, 239 South Main Street, CKS Interiors, special permit and site plan approval to install an electronic message board. And the action would be to vote to make a recommendation to the ZBA with regard to the provision of water, wastewater disposal, stormwater management, roadway and access design and construction, and the provision of other utilities, section 9.5.8 of the zoning bylaw. Is there anybody presenting on this, Katrina?
Yes, there is. I believe Attorney Mann is representing.
It is I.
Go ahead.
Good
Thank you.
evening, Jill Mann here on behalf of CKS. This particular application is simply to renovate the current sign. During the most recent large storm, the one where there was all the wind and all the down branches, the message board that traditionally had the manual letters put on. I mean, everybody knows this property. This is now a furniture store. It had been Today's Home Furniture. Then it was Marvin Windows, and now it's the CKS Interiors. So basically their desire is to not have a manual message board because having people go out in the winter in weather conditions is not the best or the most safe thing you can do. Additionally, it's just unprofessional to have those manual boards because inevitably a letter falls off. They don't really look right. They lose letters. It's always some sort of an issue. So what they're seeking to do is simply put up an electronic component. They're not looking to put up flashing. They're not looking to put up pictures. They just want to be able to have text portrayed. So we, under our zoning bylaw, we are entitled to do a message board that is electronic, provided we don't flash, that the image is portrayed for a certain period of time, and provided that there is a special permit granted by the Board of Appeals. So all we're trying to do is replace that area. And the area that was actually permitted is, I'm going to
It's my
go,
hand.
oh, you took it again, okay. So I'm going to go down and show you the, here, this is what was originally permitted.
For
This
exhibit
is
F.
way back when. So this is really what's there. Ignore the content, but this is the board. This is the final sign. We're not looking to replace. That just says CKS now. Here is the manual changeable letter board that we're looking to simply replace with an
With a
electronic.
typo.
Yeah. I don't even have to say changeable. Changeable, I guess. I know I didn't even notice that, Katrina. It's good. Changeable. Well, and then I did want to show you, I thought I had a picture included here of what the sign will look like. And now
It's further up.
Yeah, it's further
Keep
up.
going up.
the real sign, right?
It's a lot of information. There you go.
Here it
It
is.
could be.
Right, I have to show it to you all because I have to show you the prior use because it's a non-conforming sign. So here is what the component will look like. It's just a simple electronic board. It's going to be a little bit smaller even because the other one was 4 feet and this is just 29 inches, not the 4 feet. And then it was 10 feet across and this is still going to be 10 feet across. If you look from here to here, it's 118 inches. So it actually is getting a little bit smaller because it's only 10 by 3 and the old one was 10 by 4. So that's the request. And the reason is to really just to be able to portray information in a professional manner that's safe and that doesn't have, if you will, the quality of becoming very unprofessional and quite frankly, unsightly. So that's it. And we're looking for a recommendation from this board to proceed to the Zoning Board of Appeals to receive and request that special permit.
So Jill, it's Brian. I guess I'm struggling with why does a furniture store need a electronic sign? I mean, are they going to have sales every other day where they need to change the information that they're putting on sale? It just strikes me as odd that we're going to me, it's kind of tacky to put an electronic board on 114. I'm personally just put my cards on the table. I'm not really in favor of an electronic sign in front of a furniture store. So I'm trying to understand why they feel they need it.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to, if they don't receive the permit to put up an electronic one, they simply are going to put back a manual one. And I honestly, yeah, they're going to advertise sales. They're going to do whatever they can to make their store succeed because you can only imagine what it's been like. And the furniture stores, for example, when you go down the street and it's on 114, Ethan Allen is always advertising things, always on their board. And I think it is common for them to do that to try and get people in. And I don't disagree. I really don't, Mr. York, that it is tacky, but I think that the manual boards far more tacky for me. I just, the letters falling off, the different fonts half the time. For me, I'd rather see an electronic board, and I think so would this particular company. And that's
Jill.
the request.
Jill, excuse me, this is Brian Carroll. I have a question for you about this sign. While I completely agree with the pain in the butt it must be to change those things during the winter, I wonder if there's a limitation either in the town regs or anything to limit the number of lumens that it projects.
So you know what, when we drafted that bylaw, we didn't necessarily provide for the lumens, but what we did do is say that it can't flash. So when you see all those signs on 114 that are constantly changing and flashing, most of them are pre-existing. So I know a couple aren't, but most are, and you're not allowed to do that. So quite frankly, Mr. Carroll, you could say that it needs to be a certain lumen so that all it does is project an image and not blind you. Because I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about that sign in Peabody where you drive by and you want to scream and if you have to stop near it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't like any sign on the side of the road. I'm with Brian York on this. I don't like any sign that looks like, you know, the brightest, you know, thing on the side of the road. You don't want to start, you know, looking at the golden chalice at the end of the road. You know, you really want just to have an illumination.
No, I don't disagree. I think this would be more akin to what they have at AutoSound. So are you all familiar? Everybody's familiar with AutoSound. So when you drive down the street, it would be akin to that one because that was actually approved by most of the members of the board who sit on that zoning board right now. And that was required to only be primary colors, not to be able to flash and never to be able to project a picture, but only text. And then it had to not occur more than, more than once every 60 minutes. And that is actually a condition of the bylaw. But this board could put in that, it has to be a certain level of lumen so as not to cause distraction. I'll be honest, I'm not 100% sure what that would be. But if you put something like that in a condition, I can find out what the different variants of lumen are and tell the board.
What is the library? Which, I'm not really happy.
The library that violates our town bylaw, you mean?
Yes. I think
It
probably
does
the worst
things.
decision for that section of town, and for that use that I can imagine, and I don't know, that was predated me, and I don't know how it got in there.
I don't either.
Certainly, well, it's debatable that an illuminated sign may or may not belong in the section of town we're talking about this evening. That library sign does not belong there, and nobody's going to convince me any differently. It's an abomination. So I don't think, though, it's particularly bright. I don't know if that is a benchmark if this board was to approve that. Now, and I haven't made my decision on how I'm going to vote with respect to this either. But it's not terribly obnoxious for something that belongs in a very lit commercial district. It just doesn't belong there in any way, shape, or form.
No, I don't disagree, but it is more like the auto sound sign, because that is very low intrusion, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word. The auto sound sign is definitely a low impact, if you will, visually, because most people know it's there, but nobody really says, wow, because it doesn't change, it doesn't flash, it doesn't roll, and it doesn't have pictures.
So what others, like, signs like this are on 114?
Sure.
I know that we have one gas station that we approved. It was just essentially a replacement of the kind of the sign that they had where they had the price of the gas. So that one is, that one's a non-issue. I know that Cumberland Farms has one, and that one's pretty low impact. The library has one, and then the auto sound has one.
Teresa's has one. The Angelica's has one. Angelica's portrays pictures, though. I don't know. Let me think what else. So the only signs that are on 114 is the Cumbies, Richdale, Auto Sound, Teresa's, Angelica's, and that's it. We don't have any other electronic signs, not right now.
Mr. Chairman, there is a part of our zoning bylaw that deals with sign brightness. Do you want me to read it?
Oh, good. Okay.
Please.
It's under section 5.2.14.2.
Oh, can you bring me some hot sauce?
Bring you some what?
Oh, sorry. I'm eating my dinner now.
I thought I heard hot sauce. Sign brightness should not be excessive in relation to background lighting levels. For example, averaging not in excess of 100-foot Lamberts in the downtown or similarly bright areas, and not in excess of 20-foot Lamberts in unlighted outlying areas.
You think I would have known that? I did not even know that was there. Okay.
I'm not sure anyone in town has a tool to measure foot Lamberts.
I can get the sign company to give it to us. I'm just grabbing my sign bylaw.
So you may not have to put a condition on it because our zoning bylaw already regulates it.
Well, I think we should just call it out if we're going to give a positive recommendation. Just reference it for the ease and convenience of the ZBA. Also, don't we have some sort of sign commission or something like that?
No.
No, we have no regulator that signs.
No. Cities usually have committees like that. They're just bigger. So that was section 5.2.14.2.b.
Again, if Ms. Mann is done, I'll ask if there's anybody raising their hand anywhere or anybody in the board or outside the board who is attempting to communicate.
We have no hands raised and everyone else is free to speak.
So the board will entertain a positive or negative motion with respect to 239 South Main Street, CKS Ontario. Special permit and site plan approval to install an electronic message board. Is there a motion to make a positive or negative recommendation?
Mr. Chairman, this is Brian Carroll. I'd like to make a positive recommendation with the caveat that it be at or below the zoning regulated number of lumens or however they're measuring it.
Right, so that would be the 100 foot Lamberts, and I will get the sign company to provide detail.
I'll second that.
Benuli,
Nick Benugli seconds that.
okay, Mr. Benuli, would you like to poll the board?
Sure. Dave McGlone,
Aye.
Nick Benugli, aye. Jeff Garber,
Aye.
Brian York,
Hey,
Brian Carroll.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Just
And,
so we're
I-
clear, we're going to call out in the minutes zoning 5.2.14.2-7. Is that correct?
B
B.
instead of
All right.
7.
All right, sorry, B. And if anybody disagrees with that, can you indicate?
Okay, I will put that into that letter.
And what I will do is I'll make sure that the sign company gives me that detail on a plan.
All right, and my vote for the record would have been different had it been in a different section in Middleton, but I believe that section is an appropriate.
Thank you.
All right, so item C, 147 South Main Street, Mark Alara, special permit to allow installation of aluminum framed canopies. And is there someone to speak this evening?
We do have 2 people, and I'm going to, let's see, promote to panelist, Andrew T. Does Stephen Loper, I think he's here too, or I'm not sure. Well, I'll let him raise his hand if he wants to come in. So we do have here, who did I just let in? Andrew T. Are you there, Andrew? He looks like he should be visible. Oh, there he is. Hi, Andrew. Are you presenting on behalf of what is it, 147?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
And-
I am.
But before we start, Mr. Chairman, I just want to disclose that I'm in a butter to this property, and if the petitioner would rather I not vote on it, I'll recuse myself. I'll leave it up to the petitioner.
Okay, I didn't get who was speaking, I'm sorry.
Oh, Jeff Garber.
Okay. I would also be in a butter as well. I believe that I can vote without bias and prejudice. The same goes for me.
All right. So again, as mentioned, my name is Dr. Andrew Chang. I'm the Director of Operations for Middleton Family Medicine, and I'm presenting this on behalf of Dr. Mark Alar in terms of some renovations we are considering. As you know, we're in a pandemic, and COVID has actually changed much of what we do now, and probably for the foreseeable future, whether it's COVID or other biologic infectious diseases. And so what we're looking at are actually 3 components. The first one being the largest, which is currently we have an event tent at the back of the building so we can do car testing for COVID. We've actually done over 4,000 COVID tests since the end of March. And this tent has allowed us to do that where we can keep individuals in their car while we come out in full protective gear and do the testing. And then, and we are looking to make that a a structure which gives us the ability to use it year round, using an aluminum canopy. And so,
Excuse me, Andrew.
Yep.
If you would like to point at anything on the screen, see my moving hand, you just grab it with your clicker and then you
Okay.
can point anything out.
Great. So let me, oh, here we go. This is right here. So this is the back of the building. You cannot see it from the main parking lot or from the street level. I'm not sure from behind the abutters whether you can see it, that area. But right now we have an event tent up there since the end of March. And so that has allowed us to do all the car testing. You know, with inclement weather coming, we're looking at trying to make it so we can continue testing throughout the winter by a design which Steve Loper, who is a project manager, can go into details. So that's the main first part. There are two other parts we're looking at doing as well. Because of COVID, we are trying to limit the number of individuals who are gathered in our waiting room. And so we are now using the side entrance of the building, which is here, as another entrance to let patients in so we don't have too many bodies in terms of social distancing. With this entrance, though, our main entrance, which is over here, has a foyer or an airlock right inside, so we can actually screen patients, have them put a face covering on if they don't have one, hand sanitize, and take their temperature before they get inside the building. We want to do something similar with an airlock here, because this door is straight into the office and we have exam rooms right across the way. So with that, there's a little small canopy, again, to allow for rain and inclement weather to be off of patients as they go in. And then the third is actually, because of COVID, looking at ways we can minimize bringing sick individuals into the building. So our plan is actually to install a door that would go from the exterior into an exam room, so that patients can drive, park here, have another airlock with a small canopy, again, to allow for them to have keep the weather off, so that we can then examine them in full protective gear, not have them in the office at all, as well as a room for some patients who currently don't want to come into the office because of fear of getting COVID from other individuals in the office. So that's sort of the three components of what we're doing in reaction to what we think will be a continued issue going forward in terms of medical risk. And if you have questions about the actual structure, Steve Loper, who is the project manager, can answer those.
Okay, is Mr. Loper available?
He is on the webinar. I think you need to let him in.
I am going to promote him to panelist also.
The question, it's Nick Benugli. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So that rear canopy at the back of the building, looking at the elevation drawings, correct me if I'm wrong, that the rear butters, all they're going to see, they're not going to physically, they might see a car or vehicle go to the canopy, but you have like that whole side facing the butters. It's like a metal slat wall, correct?
That is correct. There will be, it's aluminum. We're building the canopy out of aluminum. It will all be painted white. On that rear wall, I put a slat for two reasons. One, for screening, and two, just to help keep some wind-driven snow and sleet out of the whole operation. But even without that slat wall, we have a stockade fence back there that's 6.5 feet tall anyway.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so your initial question, you will not see any cars or people from behind the property.
That's probably, you have both Fuller Pond and Brigadoon back there, but walking by there a lot, I don't think there's a lot of structures, at least directly behind. I think there's a vegetative screen.
Yeah, the grade drops off a little bit. I don't know exactly how much, and that whole triangular part of the property is treed off as trees back there. If you go to the last picture in the package, whoever's controlling the, I have renderings that I had are.
Actually, I can give you control. If you go over to it and
I got
just
it.
grab my hand. Do you see the moving hand?
Trying to.
You can just use your clicker. There you go. And now you can go over and find any, yeah.
This is a rendering that I had the company that's designing and will be constructing the canopy for us do. And so here, you know, we're elevated here, but there's the stockade fence. It shows you how the cars will go through. The canopy will not be attached to the structure with the exception of flashing up here, just so the rain. So this canopy is designed, you can kind of get a good image here and here. It's all, it'll be concrete foundations, you know, designed by their structural engineer. Aluminum, powder coated white framing. And each of these 3 roof panels have small motors on them. And there's little 8-inch louvers that go across. And so on demand, we can open or close them. So let's say it's a chilly day, but it's sunny. We open it up, let the sun come in, and it warms the space. The canopy will be designed, obviously, for snow load, you know, wind uplift, and also for rain protection. It will keep the rain off. And so the rain will be in gutters that are inside the columns and come down onto the parking lot as if it would if there wasn't a canopy there in the first place.
So there's going to be a slight pitch to the roof that the water diverts away from the building towards the outer stockade, and it gets diverted into a gutter system, downspouts down the vertical columns, and then out towards
out into the storm drainage, which is already in the driveway.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's correct. And then, so here's an interesting picture of what we're doing to enable to keep the nurses and the staff, you know, separate from their operation with the rest of patients inside the building. We want to add a door here, and we're basically building this room. Well, the room exists. We're repurposing this room just for them. So they'll go in here, they'll have their laptop, they'll get their swab and all their other materials they need. They'll come outside, they'll do the test as the car passes through. They'll come back in. It's kind of like their station. And this whole, you'll notice we have, it's just gonna be about 6 inches below the roof line, which actually, the peak of the current tent, this is flat, but the current tent is your typical tent with a center peak. That's actually a couple feet higher. So it's actually overall going to be lower than the tent that's out there today.
The other question I have, what's the current lighting situation in the back of the building? And is there going to be any other provisions for additional lighting or anything like that?
We have surface mounted lighting. I'm going to say 6 of them that run down the building. Underneath this structure, there will be 8 LED lights built within, like here, 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 here. They'll be built within, flush mounted, you know, not hanging down, of course. It's a pretty slick operation.
Are there warning signs to prevent interlopers from walking back there while you folks are doing those tests?
We do. We have signs. Right now, you drive around the building over here, and the tent's back here. We have all kinds of cones and signs. Stop here. Call this number. Now, of course, all the COVID tests are scheduled, what, on 15-minute basis, and Dr. Ting?
Yes, and we actually have a security camera back there as well that records 24/7. Actually, around the whole perimeter of the building, we have security cameras. So again, if someone were to go back there in the middle of the night, obviously we could capture it on camera if there's any destruction or vandalism, which I think is what potentially you were referring to. And we were lucky that, you know, the Middleton police has done a very nice job of doing some drive-bys occasionally because I know we do the COVID testing back there.
Well, that's what I'm actually, my concerns was people wandering in with no business there while you're doing the COVID testing, not so much at night.
Yeah, no, so they're by appointments right now.
All right. And obviously, Board of Health is controlling the disposal of biological substances, right?
Yeah, so we have the same OSHA and regulations that we would previously have in terms of the regulations that Mass DPH and the governor's office have required us to do to have patients back in the office. So we've attested to those regulations that the Mass DPH has given us in phase 3. I think we're in phase 3B is the current scenario.
Mr. Chairman, I decided I am going to recuse myself on this as chairman of the board of Fuller Pond Village. And due to the proximity of all this, I am going to recuse myself from this.
Thank you. I believe I can still vote again without any prejudice or bias. So I'm going to keep my, I'm going to stay in the game here. Katrina, I don't know if you can answer this, but you know, I think we all expect someday life will get back to normal. And while I want to do everything possible to make it more efficient and convenient and safe for the general public by allowing all of these, I don't want to call them amenities, but all these efficiencies to happen. My fear is that 2 years from now, after this hopefully has gone by, that people are getting, you know, their strep throat, and it's become sort of almost not an inpatient or an outpatient thing. It's just become a way of life, and we're getting tested for other things in this way. So the only limiting sort of instinct I have here is to limit it in time. On the other hand, I know these folks are making a substantial investment in these things to make their own patients more comfortable. So, you know, my instinct is I want to reward them for implementing these efficiencies and in some ways, you know, getting rid of a tent. I prefer a structure. On the other hand, I wouldn't want to see 3 years from now people going through there and getting tested for strep throat. So I don't know if the applicants want to speak to that.
Yeah, so I mean, again, obviously, COVID-19 is on the top of everyone's mind because of the current pandemic. But obviously, we're looking at other modalities for this, at least this car testing area to be used. Influenza is still here and will always be here, and so one way to mitigate actually patients coming in the office who potentially have influenza-like symptoms is to get them through the car testing so they don't expose other people in the waiting room. So that's one of the useful continual usage we'll have every fall through. So usually flu season starts in September, early-ish, and then goes all the way to about April. So that's probably a good more than 6 months out of the year are influenza time. So we're definitely looking at using it for that, as well as we're currently using it for our flu shots. So our flu clinics are now drive-through flu clinics. We've done 3 of them so far, and we've already given flu shots to 100 people. So that will continue to be, I think, the way we may want to do that to provide patients with an easier benefit of getting their flu shots in and out, and then not exposing people potentially to someone who could be coming down with early flu-like symptoms during the fall and winter time. So we did think about this in terms of constructing this. Is this a temporal thing? Will SARS-CoV-2, you know, by next fall be gone because we'll have a vaccine? We don't know, but you know, influenza we have a vaccine for, and it comes back every single year. So we expect to be using it multi-purpose besides just the SARS-CoV-2.
So, Mr. Chairman, they're going before the ZBA for a special permit for a drive-through window and also site plan review because they're revising the site plan by adding these canopies. One is out front and one is over the drive-through. The only thing I don't know how, it sounds like you're against even them using it in the future for giving vaccines, but my only fear is if the use changed there and they felt that they could use the special permit for a drive-through window for a restaurant or a bank or any other thing that uses drive-through windows, and you wouldn't want to see that.
Yeah.
It's up to you whether you want to see it in the future for the existing use.
Yeah, I certainly don't want it funged, if you will, into a pizza drive-through. If we're opening the door to that, that has to be specifically limited. The only reason I'm considering this is because these people are working in the middle of a public health emergency, and they're trying to make people comfortable and well. And I believe that we have to do our part to assist them in doing that. I don't mean to open the door for anything else but this health pandemic, and certainly I would like that limited in time, and that should be reflected in our recommendation. And that's just this person's opinion.
The comment that I'd like to make is, and I applaud this team for coming up with this scenario to create these additional efficiencies, see more patients, for increasing the safety of the patients. And I don't know if this is a common occurrence with other doctors' offices that are doing this kind of this setup. But honestly, guys, I like the doctor said, between COVID or in the future, this may be the way that a lot of these medical buildings are going to go in the future due to what's going on. And I mean, I'm totally for this. We could always put a stipulation on our approval saying our approval is based on for medical use only or something like that. And I think that should put your concerns to bed, I would think, Dave.
I just want to make one comment. That window in the back, let me grab the hand if I can find it again.
Right there.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I have to give you permission. Hold on. Okay, now you can grab it.
Okay. So the original plan had like a window here. We had actually had further conversations with Dr. Lara, and after looking review, we were not going to put a window there that opens into that room. We felt like the weather and the ability not to have a true airtight seal besides the door would be inefficient. And the testing equipment we have in that room has to stay within a certain temperature limit to work. These are they call them rapid molecular testers. So they do, we test for influenza, strep, RSV, which is respiratory syncytial virus. And the same company that makes those tests also makes a rapid COVID test, which we've been asking for 3 months, but it's not available to us, the consumer, until the United States government stops ordering them. If we get those, we can do COVID testing within 15 minutes. So we have decided not to put that window in because we thought that the machinery would not like the temperature variation. So we're just gonna have the door and no window there anymore. So I know it's on the initial drawing, but we have had further discussions, especially with the equipment, which requires to maintain a certain temperature window.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Who's speaking?
Brian Carroll.
Okay, go ahead, Brian.
I have to say that my gut instinct is to back up Nick on this one, in that I believe that this is the way things will start to go. I think that COVID is just the tip of the iceberg, considering the way the planet's going. Not to be the naysayer, but I think this the whole world's moving this way. People are working from home. 95% of companies are working from home now. I mean, it's just the way things are. I think that this is going to be a lot longer than we hope.
Okay, so we're saying medical use only. I mean, I'm leaning strongly to a positive vote for this. We're saying medical use only. That's sort of obvious. What if there's another disease with completely different vectors that, and they're starting to test back there, and 30, 40 feet away is within the contagious zone. It's beyond our expertise, but I don't know how
But
far.
Dave, Dave, to answer that question, I suppose they cross that road when they need to, and then put parameters in place in addition to what they already have in place to accommodate what you just said. If there's a 40-foot zone or whatever, how could you put that? How could you look at a crystal ball right now?
I agree, Nick. I agree. Now, we can't put conditions on for things that we don't know will ever happen. I think this is a great plan. I don't see any downside to it.
But we could recommend, I'm sorry for interrupting, Brian, before I lose my thought, we could make a recommendation as to time.
Well, it's a permanent structure. I don't know why we would put time recommendation on it. It's here to serve a purpose, and I think they can repurpose this as time goes on for other needs. Let's say we do get a vaccine and they want to do a flu clinic it's a drive-through flu clinic. That's a great idea. People can drive through, get their flu shot and go home. They don't have to come in and, I think it's an efficiency thing for the operation. I just don't see why we would want to, and then if nothing comes, if down the road nothing comes of it, it's just an overhang in the back of the building that they don't use. It just doesn't, to me, look like there's any downside to it. It's like a drive-through garage almost.
The other comment I'd like to make is there's not a problem with the plan that this team has in place right now, what they're proposing and the investment in the building that they're planning on doing. There's no doubt in my mind that if another pandemic or something happened where they got to change this scenario or add to these structures, there's not a doubt in my mind that these guys are going to do what they need to do to ensure that they're staying within the government guidelines and to ensure the safety of their patients. There's not a doubt in my mind that they're going to do what they need to do to continue. You know what I mean? So, Dave, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how you could put a time stipulation on something like this.
I have to agree. I think maybe the medical or professional use only. No foods, no delis, no quickie marts, something like that statement.
But I guess my question is, why do we care? If at the end of the day they decide to sell this building and they put a deli there, and it's a drive-through, how is that hurting anyone? They drive through this, it's covered, they can pick up their food, no one in the car has to get out. Who cares?
I think that's a legitimate point.
Why do we care? It's in the back of the building, you can't see it. It doesn't seem to be obtrusive to the abutters on the back. I don't see why we would even care.
As long as, if it is going to change uses in the future, as long as they abide by the zoning bylaws and per the drive-through requirements or the number of drive-throughs in our town, then I don't see what the problem would be. They might have to retrofit it in the future, but when you cross that road, we cross that road.
All right. Is there anybody, if you folks have through your comments, is there anybody raising their hand, Katrina?
No, there isn't.
Okay. Mr. Stans and Mr. Lopel, do you have any more comments?
No, just if you have any other questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
So I'll entertain a motion, positive or negative, on 147 South Main Street, Mark Alara. Special permit to allow installation of aluminum framed canopies.
Yeah, this is Brian. I'll make that motion.
And that's Mr. York or Mr. Carroll?
Sure.
That was when the chairman made the motion, it was a positive or a negative. You need to go either way.
Positive.
And is, Mr. York, is that with the limiting language of medical use only?
No, I'll make the recommendation that it's a positive recommendation with no stipulation.
Okay, Mr. Benugli, you want to call the roll?
You need a second first.
Oh, sorry, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Mr. Benugli, you want to call the roll?
Mr. McGlone,
Nay.
Nick Benugli, neg. Jeff? Oh, wait, I'm sorry, Jeff's not voting. Brian York?
Aye.
Brian Carroll?
Aye.
Nick, how did you vote? 2-2, okay.
Nick, did you say aye or nay?
I said nay.
Oh,
Jeff.
Okay,
Jeff,
so did someone want to make another recommendation?
did Jeff vote?
No,
Jeff
No,
reclused himself.
Oh, oh,
so you have failed to make a recommendation so far. Someone could revise that recommendation.
Chairperson, I'd like to make another motion if possible.
please go ahead. We seem to be deadlocked, Mr. Benugli.
I'd like to make a positive recommendation to allow the installation of the aluminum framed canopy structures at 147 South Main Street with the stipulation for medical use only.
Did we hear it? I will second that.
Let's take a roll call. Mr. McGlone,
Aye.
Nick Benugli, aye. Brian York,
I'm not in favor of the motion. I agree with the canopy, but I'm going to vote nay because I don't like the stipulation.
Mr. Carroll,
I'll vote aye. I think what these guys are doing is great.
So do I.
we have 3 ayes and 1 nay.
Then it passes. Okay. You there, Mr. Chairman?
I am, and yes, so it passes.
Gentlemen, thank you. I think this is an excellent idea, and I applaud you.
Thanks for your comments, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Okay, so are we on to other business, Katrina?
Yes, we are. Up first is Cashman Road, and I don't know if Attorney Mann has an update for us on that.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I had asked the engineer to give me an as-built plan because I'm not doing the roadway acceptance, but he gave me a roadway acceptance plan and not the as-built. So I need that for you to be able to release the bond. So I'm just simply seeking an extension until the next meeting when he promises me he'll have the as-built plan. I did not know that I wasn't going to have it for you until like 2 days ago.
And just remember to get it to DPW in time for them to actually look at it.
And I agree. It is so simple a plan to do because everything is done. I mean, everything. So I apologize for the continued delay, but I promise that it will be on your agenda for the October meeting, and I will get the DPW the as-built.
Katrina, what date? This is Dave McClone. What date are we looking at? In
October 14th. I don't think you necessarily have to vote on this. I can just put it on the next agenda.
Yeah, does anybody have any objections to this extension?
Negative.
No.
No.
You don't, no.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you.
So we're moving on to the 4th Avenue. I am promoting Ron Lusso to panelist because I believe he is here on behalf of 4th Avenue. And I can give you a little background on it. This is, the board may remember issuing a special permit for this duplex a couple of years ago. It was called 46 and 46R North Liberty Street. And in order to make this a buildable lot, they actually had to do a little roadway improvement plan on a little road called 4th Avenue, which was basically a paper street. They have now finished the work up there. They're ready to sell the house. And so all they needed to do was, according to the conditions of the planning board's special permit decision, was to have the DPW take a look at the road and make sure everything was complete. And up on the screen, you'll see I have a letter from our DPW saying that everything was fine with the roadway. And so the board is can actually just sign off on this and allow them to be granted their occupancy permit for the duplex there.
Mr. Chairperson, Chairman, would you like me to read this into record?
Please do. Katrina, are you done talking?
Yep.
All right, please do.
We have a document with the Town of Middleton Public Works Department letterhead addressed to Katrina O'Leary, Middleton Town Planner, from Kenneth Gibbons, Deputy Superintendent, Department of Public Works, date September 8th, 2020, regarding 4th Ave roadway improvement. I have reviewed and completed my site walk of 4th Ave and have found the petitioner, Ronald P. Lusso, has completed the roadway per the decision and plan. And per this decision, the roadway will remain unaccepted. End of letter.
What that means is it is never going to become a public way. It won't be accepted as a public way. It's always going to remain a private way and therefore be maintained by the owners. But the roadway is done at according to the plans. That was a little confusing, that last line. I don't know if Mr. Lusso wanted to say anything. He is here. He's muted. I'll unmute him. Mr.
Yep.
Lusso, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Could you hear me?
Yep. Did you want to say anything?
No, I just wanted to say, just a little, I just wanted to say the road's completely done. It looks really good. And I have people that sold their house in Middleton and they're waiting to move in there from in the house. That's it. And
Going to remain a private way?
yes.
Or is it going to be a sign which indicates that?
Well, it says 4th Ave on it. That's all. I mean, I could put another sign up if you want me to, but it
Yeah, the
says,
DPW is aware of which ones are private ways because they know exactly which ones they have to plow and which ones they do not have to plow.
All right,
But that would be a good idea to put up private way signs on every single private way to make it clear.
well, I think these other paper roads there, none of them have a private way on it. These 1, 2, 3, and now I'm 4, and they're the same, with no private way on them.
Right, that's something that the town would do on a town-wide basis, maybe require private way
Right,
signs.
does anybody have any questions?
No, I don't.
Negative.
All right. Anybody with their hand up out there? Katrina?
No, the only one left in the room is Brian Carroll.
All right.
I'm all alone.
Is there a motion to accept the as-built plans for 4th Avenue?
I'd like to make a motion to accept the as-built plans from 4th Avenue.
Is there a second?
I'd like to second that motion.
I think I heard a second. Was it Mr. Carroll?
That was.
All right, let's take a roll call. Mr. McGlone,
Aye.
Mr. Benugli, aye. Mr. Garber,
Aye.
Mr. York,
Aye.
Mr. Carroll.
Aye.
Can I just clarify that motion by saying it isn't, you're not accepting the as-bills. There were no as-bills required for this. We just made sure that it was constructed per the plan that was approved by the board originally. That's all.
We're going off the cheat notes.
All right. Yeah. If anybody objects to the language changed under the previous vote, as Katrina just specified, please indicate now. I heard no modifications.
No evident objections.
Okay, any more business?
Yes, we do. We have the Ridgewood subdivision plans. And we have Jill Mann here for this, and I'm going to put up the letter. And Jill, can you speak?
Absolutely. So Jill Mann here on behalf of Bay Development LLC, an entity that has purchase rights in the Ridgewood Estate subdivision. What we're seeking is I have them in front of me. Here's the Mylar plans. I think Katrina has a copy of them. We did send them over to her.
Yeah, right here.
There you go. So what we're seeking is, see that little text right there, the print? We actually did that in a PDF to type it on, but it's actually going to be handwritten on the original because you can't modify the plan and you can't put it through a printer again. So all it basically is pursuant to 81X. What ends up happening, just so the board has context, under 81X, in order to record a plan at the Registry of Deeds, it has to be dated and signed by you within 6 months. So this plan was signed in October 2016 by you. So you have to put an endorsement on that says the Middleton Planning Board did not approve a modification to the plan, nor did it approve a modification to its decision. In support of this, Katrina asked me to give you a statement from the engineer that there were no modifications, but truly it's you who modify, not the engineer. But basically what Chris Baragis from Williams and Baragis, he was the site design engineer. He simply indicated that he has reviewed the plans, which are the ones that you had just seen, and that there was never any, to the best of his knowledge, never any modification to those plans. And so all we're seeking right now is for the board to do an administrative update of the plan by issuing a certification saying, here they are. You know, we have this right based on the rights to acquire the property. So right now we have the right to acquire phases 5 and 6. I'm not seeking the endorsement for 5 yet, because the buyer, Brent McKinley Bay Development, doesn't intend to start building on phase 5. He intends to start building potentially on phase 6. And because the conveyance requires in phase 6 that we only, or that Bay only acquires some of the lots, not all of them. So as a direct result of that, we have to file the plans now. The reason for securing the phase 4 plan is because pursuant to our agreement, if we're not buying phase 4 right now, we have the right to develop improvements and do other things that are necessary in order for Bay to acquire whatever phases it does have the legal right to acquire. So that's it. That's kind of like a neatly wrapped package summary.
Katrina, is this the parcel that Mr. DiGregorio has an interest or potential interest in?
No.
No, that was
All right.
4th Avenue.
Yeah. All right. All right.
But I did make planning board members aware of the possible problems with certifying these plans.
I believe there's been an opinion or a dialogue between Mr. Callan, counsel to the planning board, and Ms. Mann with respect to contested ownership of some portion of the parcel which is being presented to us this evening. Is that correct?
So there is, so the owner did not object. The letter from the owner is that, okay. So this particular property is subject to litigation, and there's actually a lis pendens prohibiting the owner from transferring any of the property because there is a dispute relative to the right of Bay to acquire phase 4. We are not presently acquiring phase 4. We're not seeking to modify it either. Pursuant to the purchase and sale, which we do have, and I do have excerpts of, and if Katrina allows me to share my screen, I can give you the excerpts from the purchase and sale agreement signed by all parties and the excerpts from the 3rd amendment showing that we have the right to acquire 4, 5, and 6. However, there is a dispute relative to 4, which is the subject of a litigation. I read the attorney's comment letter from, or directed to, Ms. O'Leary earlier. All he said was that Bay doesn't have the right to use and/or easements over phase 4. At no time did he say that the endorsement should not be had, nor did his email say we're not allowing the endorsement, because quite frankly, this isn't a request for approval. This isn't a request for a change. This isn't a request for relief. This is an administrative issue, simply that there's no changes. I am the possessor and the holder of the Mylars. No one has them but me. All I'm asking for is that the board endorse it. I'm not asking for you to record them, approve them, or do anything else to them. But if you need evidence that I have or that my client has the legal right to purchase, and that the seller has the obligation to deliver those things that are necessary to improve the phases, I can show it to you. I can put them up on the screen.
So Jill, you'll be able to prove to us per Jay's email there to basically show proof of site control?
Yeah, site control isn't really, that's like not a good term. So site control really is not the issue. Site control means I can go in and manipulate the property. I'm not telling you I can do that. I'm not telling you that I'm going to go in and buy phase 4. That is being litigated. I am telling you that I need the endorsement saying that these plans haven't been changed, so that when we do go to actually transfer the property, I can do that and not have to wait for you to do it the next month again.
I got you.
And I can't. So I get in 81X. Again, if Mr. McGlone will give permission to Katrina for me to share my screen, I'll share with you the relevant provisions of 81X just to demonstrate that it's a completely ministerial issue, and then I can share with you the purchase and sale agreements. I've redacted them and not given you full copies because I am not authorized to disclose the terms of the deal. I can show you a pledge agreement where it's evident that I, Jill Mann, am the holder of the plans. I can show you the list pendants, which is part of the lawsuit, demonstrating that we are involved in litigation. And I can share with you the email from Tom Fallon that basically says, you know, he wants to make sure that you understand that I don't have the right, that my client doesn't have the right to have access over 4, which by the way is a clear violation of your subdivision rules. But he just wants to make sure you have that information for the purposes of deliberation. And I asked Jay, so why was there's nothing more than that. There's no request to not do it. And Tom Fallon was aware. Tom Fallon is not legal counsel to the town, by the way. He is representing this trust. I know that some of you know that Tom had in the past operated as town council. He is not, though. Not presently in this capacity. It's Jay Tallerman. Tom knew we were coming forward tonight and is not present on this call.
Yeah, Jill, I think until to be honest, just to try to cut this short, I mean, we've been advised to not take a position on this. So
by not signing, you're taking a position contrary to the interests of a party that are clear from an agreement. You are taking an
I think, you know,
Not if you withdraw it, Jill.
Pardon?
And we'll talk to Mr. Tallerman in the next month, and if you withdraw it and present it at the next meeting, it might be more efficient and quicker for all parties.
Because again, all parties could have been on this call. I had conversations all day with Mr. Tallerman. Tom Fallon could have been present on the call. Clearly, he didn't want to be, because under the terms of his litigation, I don't think he can deny me the right to get this. That's why. And it's not fair to deny the endorsement when it's simply an administrative leave. As I said, I can demonstrate to you that I have an agreement that's in full force and effect.
Jill, I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but I can tell you we're not going to. I mean, I don't feel we'll make this. We're not going to have an opinion on this tonight.
And again, I think that no matter what, if you do that, you have an opinion. That you're denying an endorsement that by statute you're obligated to do. 81X specifically says that upon presentation of a plan, you are directed to indicate whether or not approval has been changed, modified, or the plans rescinded. That's the statute. You're not being asked to grant relief. You're not being asked to approve anything. There is nothing to this other than, did you or did you not modify the plan and modify your decision? End of story.
Dave, I think
Nothing more.
Jill's got a point, I think. I'm pretty sure.
She has a point, but we have an opinion from council. And it seems he's pretty forceful here, and I'll be right with you, Mr. Carroll. And he's even, drafted language to deny it. And I don't really think he has a dog to fight being able to, and unbiased counsel do something vexatiously or on baseless ground to supply us with this information.
I don't disagree with you. It's just that if you read his language, it doesn't apply. It has nothing to do with it. He specifically says here, clearly applicant no longer has site control, which is an essential element of subdivision approval. I agree. I'm not looking for subdivision approval. I am simply asking for an administrative declaration relative to the site. There is nothing to do with subdivision approval. This isn't even tantamount to an A&R endorsement. I asked Jay specifically about this, and he said to me, you need to have site control. And I said, I can go into the building department and get the building commissioner to issue to me certifications relative to any public filing, anyone. And I can show you copies of an agreement. I have no idea where this comes from, and I can't find any basis upon which to rely on it. And I'm not asking for subdivision approval. I'm not before you seeking to subdivide a property. I'm not here even to seek A&R approval. I'm not asking for any approval. I just want you to say you haven't rescinded your approval. There's a big difference.
Mr. Chairman, do you think it would be helpful if Jill showed us the documents that she's offering to show us?
Yeah, I think so. I think Mr. Carroll wanted to be heard. I think Mr. Benucci didn't finish his thought. So, Mr. Carroll?
My question is, has council advised any further than that email that we saw, Katrina? I mean, as far as his reasoning to the liability that we pose by, by doing what Jill's asking?
No, he didn't talk about liability, but there was a long email discussion, and I think I sent most of it to the board members so that you could see the conversation and the points being raised by both parties, and they could not come to an agreement in the end. And I'm just wondering why, Jill, why didn't you, the things you want to show the board right now, why didn't you show Jay?
Show Jay what?
The items that you want to show the board right now to convince them, because what I'm afraid of is that I'm not an expert on these matters. Jay is.
I don't think Jay, I told him I had control. I don't know if he had asked me for them. If you saw the emails, you saw why. It was point blank. Tom Fallon issued that letter. It was done. I told him I had the list pendants. I told him I have a purchase and sale agreement. Tom specifically addresses the fact that there was litigation. All you have to do is pull the list pendants, which I can show you. I had no problem showing Jay. I actually thought maybe he'd be on this call. I didn't know.
Yeah, it's just tough because I don't know about the rest of the board, but I am not an expert in these matters, so I have to rely on Jay's opinion.
I am an expert on them, and I disagree. So, I mean, you have two different opinions, and I agree it's town council giving you an opinion, but I can't find a basis in the contract. I can't find a basis in the statute, and I cannot, for the life of me, figure out why it would be harmful to say a plan hasn't been changed and your approval hasn't been rescinded. I'm trying to understand.
But Jill, you have to put yourself in our. We have been advised by town council to not have an opinion matter at this time. It would be wrong for us to have an opinion that is contrary to town council.
And I disagree. You are the elected officials. He is not. You merely are advised and you are to take that information, sort it, and then make a reasonable decision based on your own discretion as elected officials. I do not believe that you have to follow his opinion. I respect Jay greatly. Don't get me wrong. I disagree with him. I don't see the issue here, and by not doing it.
Jay is not saying to vote yes or no. He's saying it needs more time. What he has seen is not sufficient for us to feel confident to render a decision. He's not saying that what you've presented is right or wrong. He's just saying he needs more information.
No, he doesn't. He specifically says it's well-settled case law that a planning board should require proof of site control as an essential element of subdivision approval. I am not seeking subdivision approval. I cannot say that clearly enough. This is not discretionary. Subdivision approval requires an evaluation and control of the site. I do not disagree. I do have control over the plans. I have them. I do not own the property.
But Jill, I don't think control of the Mylars is in question.
Again, this is not subdivision approval, though. This is not. You know what it would be similar to? When I go to, I'll give you an example of the administrative quality of this. When I go to town council, when I go to the town clerk and I ask them to give me a certificate of no appeal because the decision's been rendered. I have the right to get a certificate of no appeal on any decision, whether it's mine or it's not mine. I have the right to get it. I just have to ask for it. This is the same thing. I don't understand how this is different from just getting certification that there hasn't been an appeal in the case of a certificate of no appeal, or here that there hasn't been a change. I do not agree that you need to, I don't even know what he means by site control. What Tom has to say that I have the right to do it. Well, Tom did not say that I don't have the right to get the plan endorsed. He didn't. I saw the email. Did you forward that to them, Katrina?
I don't know. I forwarded them the whole, the email chain, but I don't think Tom's was on it between you and Jay.
Yeah. So, I mean, what Tom
Oh,
literally.
but you quoted Tom Fallon though in that email chain, so they did see it.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to read the second paragraph of Jay's September 9th, 10:34 a.m. email and get a response from Jill based on that second paragraph. Is that okay?
Yes.
So the second paragraph reads as follows, and this is from Jay Talaman, email to Katrina O'Leary regarding this subject. I move that the board deny, without prejudice, the request for endorsement on the grounds that there have been material changes in the subdivision and the approval thereof, specifically the lack of present ownership and or site control of the party requesting endorsement. Jill, have you proved to us this evening that that statement is false, or have you provided proof to Jay that that is not the case, or what's
It's
your
100%
response?
false. 81X has absolutely nothing to do with ownership, site control, or anything else. It's almost an irrelevant paragraph. The only way you can refuse the endorsement pursuant to 81X if there has been material changes, which is why he cites it. If you read 81X, it is specific. It refers only to the actual plan or your decision. That second paragraph is, I don't know what it is. I've never even heard of anything like that. I couldn't tell you, Ms. Bundy. So if you read 81X, again, if you give me site control or screen control, I can show you what 81X says, but it most certainly doesn't say that. It says if there has been any change to the board's approval in the board's file or a rescission of the plan by the board, that's what the 81X is.
So Jay is basically saying that he believes there's been material changes around that.
No, he specifically, the only way you can deny the approval, Mr. Carroll, is if you find that there are material changes to the plan. I asked the board, have there been material changes to your approval of the subdivision Ridgewood Estates? The answer is no. I ask again, has anybody come back to you seeking changes to the plan approval or the plan submitted as of October 16th and signed by you? The answer again is no. So there have been no material changes, none.
Jill, I get what you're saying, and it's pretty clear and it makes sense to me. But what throws up a red flag for me is that Jay's got his concerns about that, and I wish he was on this call this evening to quelch it, or you guys could have a dialogue.
But his concerns, yep, okay.
You know what I mean? He's given a recommendation that we deny it. You're making a great case. It makes sense. But at the same time, we have to be hesitant and wait till we get a response from him before we can do it. Unfortunately, you make sense. Everything you're saying makes sense. And
I don't disagree. But if you read his statements, you see why they're not valid. I mean, I wish he were here too. I have never seen this before. Had I seen this, I would have reacted to it. I never saw this. So, I mean, to say there have been material changes in the subdivision and approval thereof, immediately your decision is inaccurate. Because
there hasn't been planned to the subdivision, there hasn't been a change to subdivision plans, but theoretically you filed a list pendant. So there's been a change to the subdivision itself.
No, absolutely not.
I don't believe it's this board's providence. It's not our real jurisdiction to decide whether a statute is anticipating whether this situation is a list pendants filing is a change to the plans or just a change to the property.
There is absolutely, the list pendants has absolutely nothing to do with the plans. As you know, all it means is there's a litigation pending. That's it.
Right.
And there is a litigation pending, not with regard to the approval, not with regard to the layout of the lots, not with regard to the subdivision, only with regard to the fact that this particular trust is refusing to close on phase 4. That's it. And why they're doing so. So we filed an action and associated therewith a list pendants, nothing to do with the subdivision. And the fact that Tom Fallon could submit anything that would cause this to happen and then the board to agree to it is simply interfering with the contractual rights of a party unfairly, because the discretionary quality of 81X is completely zero. All you were supposed to do is review your record. It is so clear. And again, let's look at 81X. Katrina, if you don't want to share my screen, bring 81X up. You can have it. Look at what it says.
Let's look at 81X.
Mr. Chairman, can you possibly take a roll call vote to see who is even willing to go against town council's advice, and then we can move forward. If there's enough members that are available to listen to the argument, then we can move on, but I feel like you're just going around in circles.
Dave, you asked a question, I'll take the roll call.
Okay. Is there a motion, strike that. Does anybody here move to accept the town council's advice as written in the September 9th, 2020 email at 10:34 a.m., second paragraph?
So Dave, I don't.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would look at this a little bit different. I mean, we're being advised by town council to not take any action. I mean, is the question, should we defer this until next meeting, or?
This is better withdrawn, as I said at the beginning. Here's the way I see it. The way Tallerman has written this denial, it says the request for to deny without prejudice, the request for the endorsement on the grounds that there have been material changes in the subdivision and approval thereof. I believe a list pendants filing is a material change in the subdivision. I accept Ms. Mann's point that it is not a change in the approval thereof. because we have taken no positive or negative action since the initial subdivision approval. So I don't think I could move, or anybody should move, to exactly accept his words as in the second paragraph. I believe it should say only that there have been material changes in the subdivision. There quite clearly have been no material changes in the approval thereof.
Dave, I think the question at hand, and I get what you're saying, do we still defer to next meeting after consulting with town council, or are you prepared to make a motion right now to accept this the way that it is?
To accept Ms. Mann's,
With the, correct, yes.
I'm not prepared to make a motion to accept Ms. Mann's proposed motion without talking to council.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
If the landowner was before us rather than Jill, and there still was a lis pendens, would our position be not to grant it to him? Or are we more questioning Jill's standing? Or would if the lis pendens just saying on its own, you would have the same position if the landowner were before us rather than Jill? Your position would be the same?
Yeah, it doesn't really affect my decision whether there's council or no. I believe the filing of a lis pendens clearly indicates that there is no control to the fee interest, discernible control. Jill is correct when she says there's been no change to the approval thereof. And whether council is going to parse the statute for us and indicate whether change to the parcel itself via a lis pendens is something which indicates denial, we need to know. We don't know that.
You do know that because you haven't changed your approval. That's why Jay Tallerman, when you read his letter to you, I mean, you can take your vote, whatever you want to do, but when you read his letter, he's confusing and convoluting approval of a landowner with your approval. 81X has nothing to do with the landowner, and that's very important to identify, number one. Number two, if you're going to deny my request for endorsement, then I would prefer it if you deny them, then you deny 4 based on Tom Fallon's letter, and you take that as him telling you not to endorse it, and then to endorse my phase 6, which I have to close on, and I need the plan to do, and I have complete control over that, and I'm supposed to close on that. And Tom, if you had been shared Tom's email, you would see that I'm closing on that. And I mean, you've been given half information. I'm not allowed to show you my control of the site with my purchase and sale. You're gonna hold us up by 30 days for something, and it's all based on not good information.
But Jill, you're asking us to make a decision based off half information, which I think is unfair.
No, I'm not. I'm more than willing to show you everything. I've only asked that somebody allow me to show you my screen.
You just said you can't show us.
I think the point, Jill, I think the point is that we don't have the legal backup such as yourself on our side to argue the point with you.
And if I had seen this motion, you would have, but I didn't see it. Which is wrong, by the way, but I didn't see this. I simply heard there was going to be a recommendation that there be no endorsement. And my point was, it makes no sense. Seeing this, it would have been easy to argue because I see what he's trying to say here, and it's not accurate. And if he wanted me to demonstrate my purchase and sale agreement, I mean, I can show copies of it signed. And if you look at Tom Fallon's letter, it only pertains to phase 4, not phase 6. And he should have been direct about that in his email to you, and he wasn't.
My comment at this particular time is due to the fact of the way that this email is worded from Jay. Unfortunately, I have no choice, but I'm going to either have to refrain or vote to push this until he clarifies that email that he wrote. and with further detail.
Well, then I would ask, I get it. Then I would ask that you sign the phase 6 because Tom's email had nothing to do with that. And Katrina's going to have to find it and show you what he actually said. Because in there, it says that we are going to buy 5 and 6. And we continue to have control. I don't know what else to say. I don't know how to give it to you because I can't share my screen. So I'm asking for that endorsement. In my opinion, you cannot deny it because there have been no changes. If you want to deny 4, you need to give me grounds because I can't withdraw it. It's been submitted. I don't even know how to withdraw something that I'm entitled to.
You can continue it to the next meeting.
I can't. I need the thing endorsed, Katrina, for a closing. So if you're going to deny it, I can get it denied and then I can proceed with what I have to do. But I need phase 6 signed so that I can close. It's not that simple. And I truly didn't think an 81X endorsement was going to cause this kind of a hubbub. And I apologize for taking the board's time because I know it's frustrating to you and I apologize for that. I really do.
And we can feel how frustrated it is for you as well, but we just need to make sure that we're making the right decision.
I don't disagree with you, Mr. Carroll. I truly don't. But you need to see Tom's email. Katrina, please show it to them so that they will endorse 6.
They already saw it today if they read the emails that I sent to them.
Okay, you said you hadn't sent that. Okay.
Remember, you paraphrased his whole letter in red?
I didn't see what you sent to the board, so I don't know.
It was your email that I sent to the board.
Become a separate parcel.
Say it again. I'm sorry, Mr.
When did it become a separate parcel? Does your list pendants affect 6?
I mean, the list pendants is inclusive of everything, but the right to acquire 6 is clear from Tom Fallon's email. The list pendants has nothing to do with this.
But the list pendants affects parcel 6.
It doesn't really because we're buying it, but the list pendants refers to it because you have to demonstrate what properties you're going to buy and what the lawsuit is about. But the list pendants doesn't affect this at all. This has nothing to do with why Jay is saying this. It has everything to do with Tom Fallon's letter saying that we aren't going to be able, that his client refuses to sell phase 4 to my client. But phases 5 and 6 are being conveyed. And my client has the legal right, unfettered, uncontested, to acquire.
When you went down to the registry of deeds and you filed the memorandum of list pendants,
it says 4, 5, and 6. It says every piece of property they have.
So you're saying the list pendants does purport to put a cloud on title of parcel 6, but that shouldn't matter because that is not part of the core of the dispute.
Exactly. We're disputing the fact that they refuse to sell 4 and threaten to sell it to someone else, so we filed the list pendant.
Yeah. So I mean, the board we're sort of splitting a baby here. I mean, the list pendants would, as to a third party, as to third parties, not the parties involved in this litigation, would cloud the title. What she filed would cloud the title on 6 as to a third party.
Right, but not to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But not to her. And it does sort of destabilize the pureness of the title, and does therefore Mr. Tallerman's assertion still holds in a very legalistic sense that there has been sort of a destabilization of the title. But what she's saying is that it's moot. So if you're interpreting a statute, 81X, you're still in the base of that statute if Mr. Tallerman's opinion about that statute is correct. What Ms. Mann is saying is, in all fairness, not in a legalistic sense, it's really not part of the dispute. and therefore she should not, we should sort of split the baby, and it is technically inconsistent with ourselves to deem 6 as not really having an issue when it still technically falls under Mr. Talaman's interpretation of 81X. Sorry for the convolution there, but that is, we're dealing with multi-layered complexities.
Right, but when you look at Tom's email, Mr. McGlone, it specifically identifies Bay as having full control over 6. So it doesn't pertain. He just didn't write this that well. I don't know what else to say.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we're being, if we allow 6 to go, we're being philosophically consistent, but probably much more fair. And I wish.
Mr. Chairman, I have to agree, having been in real estate a long time ago, if the buyer or the seller, killed the deal for number 4, and that's what it's all about, then, it has to move on anyway.
It does.
You're saying let her get the endorsement on 6. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. In my opinion, it's like buying a block and you've got the holdout with this one guy in the middle. You've got to build around him.
Katrina, is there a letter from Tom Fallon that we haven't seen?
There is definitely an email that started this whole thing because the board has done 81X endorsements or certifications before, and actually on this subdivision. So you've done this before, it's not a big deal. But we did receive an email last Thursday from Tom Fallon. I don't have it in a PDF. I'm not going to call it up on my Outlook right now and show you my Outlook emails.
It wasn't part
I
of the
didn't have
document.
it ready to show.
I can show you.
And plus, that would be up to the chairman, too, for me to show it.
So Katrina, I reviewed the email chain that you sent us earlier, and then everything on OneDrive. That email does not exist. It wasn't sent to us.
I
So
agree.
in the emails I sent you, Jill Mann she copied what Tom said, and she was taking it bit by bit and explaining why it didn't make sense. And part of it was in red, part of it was in black.
I don't think I saw that.
I don't remember seeing that either, Katrina.
I haven't seen it.
I'm looking at
Well,
the
I don't
email
have
chain
it to
right
show
now.
you tonight.
Yeah, I'm looking at the email.
Yeah, me
chain. I don't
neither.
see anything highlighted or anything like that. So
I can save it to PDF and show you. I mean, it's simple for anybody to do. Katrina, you can do it too. You just need to download it on your
Right, and what you don't understand is that I'm conducting the Zoom meeting, and I can't just leave and do things like that without you seeing everything I'm doing on the
Oh.
screen.
You can't do it. I thought you could not share your screen and do it.
If I closed it down or if I left the meeting, I could do it, and then I could come back. And
If you want to share my screen, I can show you.
All right, share the
again,
screen.
that's up to the chairman.
Share the screen on that, please.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing first. Okay, now all panelists have the ability to share. Does everyone have a share screen button at the bottom? Can everyone hear me?
yes,
Okay.
Do you have a green share screen button at the bottom?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, so now everyone can share the screen.
So Katrina, I just have to take share.
You hit the share screen at the bottom.
There we go. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see. Oh, you know what? second, I have to. I thought you guys had this, so you know what? You're gonna see all my stuff. I don't mind if you see it all. This is yours. Okay, one sec. How do I? I'm trying to get this thing to minimize. Here we go, so I can see. You got to be joking. I can't get this thing to move. Here we go. Okay. I'm just trying to send it to myself so that I can open it for you. There we go. Okay, is this crazy? Why can I not get this to open the attachment? Anybody know? You got to be joking. All right, one second. I'm just gonna. Okay, it's gonna happen one more time. I'm sorry about this. It's driving me crazy too, believe you me. Here we go. Okay, this is now I just sent this to myself with the thing in it.
Well, while you're doing that, what are you saying that this letter is going to say?
It's going to show you that it is only contesting relative. I cannot believe I can't get it to open. I just sent it to myself in the full. It's going to show you that he basically only is contesting. He says, I'm going to read it to you, and then hopefully one of these things will open. I represent East Street Realty Trust, the owner of the development. Phase 4 is in litigation as Bay Development failed to exercise their option to acquire the same, untrue stuff. My client has no intention of deeding the lots and roadways in Phase 4 to Bay. and without said deed, Bay does not own the lots nor have access through the roadways, irrespective of any purchase of subsequent phases such as 5, 6, or 7. The purchase and sale agreements don't provide easements for the other lots, basically. I just want to make sure that the board was aware of the foregoing in any deliberation. All he talks about, why is this not a, here it goes, is it going to come now? All he talks about is that particular phase. He does not.
And then you filed a list pendants on 4.
A while ago, yeah. So
And-
I can show you. I mean, so.
Well, we'll take the
I can't, I don't know why I can't open this. I've sent it to myself now twice.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Oh,
So,
I know what I can do. I can open Katrina's email, I bet.
all right, that sounds great. Now, you're basically saying, but you filed the list pendants on 4, but it encompasses 6.
Yeah, when they went,
Saying that this letter says that he has no interest in denying you conveyance of 6.
it only says he has interest in denying me 4. It doesn't say anything about the other parts. Yes. I can't tell you.
Right, but that's my concern. It doesn't say anything about the other parts. So
Again, you know what? This is not my fault that you're getting half information. Jay should never have written it in that format. I can show you full control. He is simply contesting selling 4. As it is, the endorsement should be issued for all of it. But if the board chooses not to, based on what it's getting, and is going to support a third party who isn't even on this call, who could have been, then that's up to the board. But we have full control over 5 and 6.
but he doesn't, I mean, I think you want us, from an equitable standpoint, to say, well, go ahead and do 6 because there really isn't a controversy there. And from a general fairness standpoint, we shouldn't stand in your way. If Mr. Tallerman's interpretation was that list pendants was sort of destabilizing 4, let me go ahead and do 6. But the letter that you're proffering, as you read it, doesn't eliminate the opposing counsel's. It never says we're going to give you 6. It just says I'm talking about 4. And you ain't getting 4.
Again, that's why Jay Tallerman sent it to you, because
but
he's contesting 4. To actually infer, it is, again, to deny us the right under 81X to get the endorsement. And for the board to do that is to effectively take a side that it ought not take. There is nothing telling you not to do it.
Tallerman may have an interpretation that the statute is not really, just doesn't really affect the lack of modifications, but any change to the parcel in the context of title kicks the statute in. I believe that's his interpretation. And then you're saying, well, let me have 6 because there really isn't a controversy. So as a matter of fairness, let me have 6. But they never say they're going to give you 6. They just said we're definitely not going to give you 4. So,
Again, the interpretation is unfair because that is not what he is saying at all. In fact, he is saying that we don't have control over 6 only. I mean 4 only. And Jay Tallerman is speaking. Oh, is this where'd you get this?
While you were looking for that, I went and I just took a screenshot of my Outlook, and here's the letter.
So there it is. It's phase 4. It has nothing to do with the purchase of subsequent phases of 5, 6, and 7. And we're entitled to the endorsement. We're entitled to the endorsement for 4. This board not granting it is a violation of 81X, in my opinion, because Jay Tallerman's position has absolutely no bearing. Take a peek at what 81X even is. I can't get it now, but 81X is not what he says it is.
Jill, can you let us read this?
Yeah, my God, of course.
Okay.
Do I have to move this?
No, just stop talking.
Hello, we still there?
We're still here.
I'm still here. Cheers. The chair's still here.
So I have a question. So
Go ahead.
the phase 5, 6, and 7, how is that impacted? Like if, Jill, if your client does not ever get ownership of phase 4, how are people going to get to phase 5, 6, or 7 of the subdivision if they're not providing access to the roadway?
Because they can't deny access to the roadway because you can't grant subdivision approval and allow a bifurcation of the roads. That's subdivision control. Couldn't even be more clear. His position is wholly untenable, illegal, and unenforceable under subdivision control. So that's why. Plus, our agreement specifically says that we are entitled to improve and make use of any portions of the real estate, which is all of 84, which is East Street, in order to gain access to the properties that we are entitled to and have acquired. So this is far beyond what I'm asking for. I'm not trying to bring you into our litigation. I'm not trying to get you to issue an opinion. I'm trying to get you not to side for a party. And by doing so is simply issuing an endorsement that's administrative. If I can't get you to agree for 4 because Jay Tallerman issued some, declaration and the board does not want to exercise its independent discretion, I get it. But with regard to 6, there is no independent discretion. Jay Tallerman had nothing to do with that, nor did Tom Fallon. And he was and you need to read this because it is not telling. He knows I'm going for, wait a second, he knows I'm going for my 81X endorsement. Do you see anything in this email telling you not to give it? Do you see anything withdrawing approval of that? Do you see anything asking you not to endorse it?
I don't think this letter intends to handle that.
Oh, it does. Why do you think he emailed? He knew we were going for an endorsement tonight. Otherwise, why would he have emailed Katrina?
He's talking about option rights, Jill. And
again, exactly. Why is this brought up?
Jill, let me speak. He says 4 is definitely not yours. And he may be saying in here, I'm not talking about the rest of the parcels right now. And then you went ahead and you filed a list pendants on all of those parcels because you read this letter the exact same way I'm reading it now.
Okay, wait a second. No. This letter is dated 3 weeks after my list pendant.
Order, please.
After, because this isn't fair. You're asking me to litigate. My list pendants took place in August. This letter was issued 2 days ago. This letter was issued as a result of my attempt to file and receive an 81X endorsement and nothing else. The list pendants predates, and I can show it to you. That has nothing to do with it.
He's been playing cat and mouse with your options all along, and it's driving you nuts. And that's why the whole thing.
It is. And now he's coming forward without saying, don't endorse it, and the board's falling for it and not endorsing it.
Well, for some reason,
our
counsel who has no dog in the fight other than his fee is telling us not to do it.
Based on totally incorrect information.
What I see here is a latent explosion of litigation on the other options is what I see.
There is no latent explosion. We are closing on those phases. Absolutely. We have rights. He admitted it in the litigation papers. He is simply contesting 4, and he tried to get in the way and interfere with the 81X endorsement in order to create more pain. So
right.
Here we are. And then the board is going to sanction that pain if it doesn't endorse the plans. And if it further doesn't endorse 6, causing more issues relative to our closing unnecessarily, unfairly, and without any rationale, because we have site control over 6 and 5.
This board is following its advice of counsel. And what you have is perhaps an excellent lawsuit for interference with advantageous contractual relations. If this fella has misrepresented the situation to the point where a regulatory board is denying your relief on unrelated parcels of property. But this board has no personal liability for acting within the advice of town council.
I don't disagree, but town council was incorrect because it did not limit it to phase 4 as represented in Tom Fallon's own letter. Read Tom Fallon's letter, phase 4. If this board seeks not to execute and endorse phase 6, it's doing so improperly, completely.
I am saying that he speaks to phase 4 and he doesn't really speak to the other parcels at all. He doesn't rule them in. So from a general fairness standpoint, where you're saying, hey, board, split the baby, we'll get to 4, but approve 6, because this letter says nobody's really litigating over 6, and this really isn't a problem. I don't read it that way. He just doesn't handle those other things. He might have another strategy with respect to those, or he might be holding a card behind his back on those. I don't know.
Let me show you the agreements that clearly say I have the right to buy it.
He doesn't clearly say that.
I can show you my agreements clearly saying I have the right to buy 5 and 6. Tom Fallon agrees to it. This is just further proof that Jay should have done his job better and put in phase 4, don't endorse the plan. Or he may not have known that it was phase 4 and phase 6. Because this, and I'm not trying to split the baby. I'm simply saying to you, if you want to say that the endorsement is improper because I don't have site control, you can only say that relative to phase 4. You cannot say that relative to phase 6. Impossible, incorrect, untenable, with nothing to rely on.
You
and
have
it's unfair and not part of your authority as a planning board. You do have independent discretion, and you can say, okay, Jay was saying this based on Tom's email. Tom's email specifically says phase 4. It's clear that they have control over 6 and 5.
Right now on 6, you have a split title because you have a list pendants on it.
It does not split title. I am the receiver of the list pendants and the purchaser of the property. Purchase completely merges list pendants. List pendants is simply notice with regard to title to real property. You can buy it with it. I would buy it subject to my own litigation, which creates merger. I have no title issue, none.
Then why is there a list pendants on the prop on 6?
Because how do I know what they're going to try to do? It's pretty clear that the tactics are an intent to try and not allow my client to acquire. List pendants is simply to notify third parties. It's not to hurt the purchaser. It's to protect the purchaser, which this is the exact opposite. You're hurting the purchaser now.
Well, you wouldn't need a list pendants if you had control, and that's exactly what Taylorman is saying.
Oh, absolutely not, Dave. You as a litigator know that's not true. People try to do things that are outrageous all the time, which is why litigators are so good at what they do, right? That isn't the case.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no new information, could we possibly call a motion?
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? None being heard. Jill, do you want to give us a 1-minute summation?
Yeah, it is my opinion that 81X is directive and it is ministerial, and that this board is directed pursuant to that statute to execute and endorse. There is absolutely nothing in it that gives the board the right to deny endorsement. Nothing. The statute's clear. If the board chooses to follow Jay Tallerman's directive relative to not doing the endorsement, then you will have to read that and you will have to imply that it is for 4 only, because it does not refer to phase 6 based on Tom's email. It couldn't be more clear. And if you would just allow me to share my screen again, I can show you the documents that give me the right to all of it.
I have a question. That the agenda item says certification of 4 and 6. Are you saying now that you're asking just for 6, or you're still asking for both?
Oh, I'm asking for both. You have to deny me 4, and then I'll take 6.
Why wouldn't you withdraw 4?
Because I can't allow a motion that says this based on what Tom says. What's my withdrawal? That I'm not do it? I am do it. This is clear that the email sent was an intent to interfere. I have an obligation to my client. That's why. I also have a legal obligation.
So on 6, you have a conveyance of a deed on 6?
I can't convey until I have the property because phase 6 only involves the sale of 3 lots. I can't sell or obtain title to 3 lots without a recorded plan. I have to have phase 6 recorded. It must be recorded,
So
or I can't do the conveyance because
deed
it's
has-
only 3 lots.
The deed hasn't merged with the list pendants then?
It will when we close. Again, this list pendants, everybody's getting confused. This list pendants has nothing to do with what I'm asking you for. Nothing.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the quality of your title.
Again, that's irrelevant. That's not up to this board. Your only job here is to review whether or not there's been a change to the approval. If you deem what Jay says necessary for you, then you can read that way it is. The list pendants does not impact you. You aren't even supposed to consider title benefit. Otherwise, it makes no sense.
That's not what council is telling us.
Council is simply telling you that based on what Tom Fallon said, my client has a contested right to acquire. That's all he's saying. A list pendants is simply me telling the world that my client has a legal entitlement to acquire phase 4, that there is litigation pending. So a list pendant simply says, all third parties know here that Bay Development has filed an interest against real estate. That's it. It does nothing more than put people on notice. Nothing.
Mr. Chairman, those were the closing comments that you asked for?
Those were the closing comments. All right, so I would ask first, is there a motion to divide the decision between parcel 4 and parcel 6? In other words, should we move on the parcels separately? Does anybody move to vote on the parcels separately?
Mr. Chairman, I would do that. I'll vote to vote on 4 and 6 separately, as 4 seems to be the contested parcel.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. So, we have competing language. We'll start with parcel 4.
Did you want to vote on this motion to separate? You didn't take a roll call.
Yes. So, Mr. Benugli, can you call the roll on the motion to separate?
Mr. McGlone?
Aye.
Mr. Benugli is aye. Mr. Garber?
Aye.
Mr. York?
Nay.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
So the motion to separate the decision on the parcel carries. Okay. And do we have a motion to go with respect to parcel 4 with Mr. Tallerman's language? And that is, I move that the board deny without prejudice the request for endorsement on the grounds there have been material changes in the subdivision and approval thereof. Specifically, the lack of present ownership and or site control of the party requesting endorsement. Is there a motion on parcel 4 under that language?
Brian Carroll, so moved.
Do we have a second?
I'd like to second that.
Okay. Let's start the Newly. Can you roll call?
Roll call, Mr. McGlone?
Aye on parcel 4.
Mr. Benugli is aye on parcel 4. Mr. Garber?
Aye on parcel 4.
Mr. York?
Aye.
Mr. Carroll?
Aye.
Okay. The denial of parcel 4 without prejudice carries. With respect to parcel 6, is there a motion that the board deny without prejudice the request for endorsement on the grounds that there have been material changes in the subdivision and the approval thereof? Specifically, the lack of present ownership and or site control of the party requesting endorsement.
revolving around parcel 6.
On parcel 6.
I think you were, I don't know if I agree with that statement.
Yeah, you said deny. You said deny.
Right, so this is the language up on the screen I think you want to use. You want to certify that approval of that plan has not been modified, amended, or rescinded, or the plan changed, right? We're just going straight forward with
Yeah.
basics.
Approval of, say that again, Katrina.
So do you see what's up on the screen right now?
Yeah, I got to switch screens. I'm sorry.
You're making a motion to certify that the approval of the Phase 6 plan has not been modified, amended, or rescinded, nor the plan changed.
Revolving around parcel 6.
It's Phase 6.
Phase 6, sorry.
All right. I don't have it up on my screen. I still have a map.
I'd like to make a motion, if I could, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
that motion for approval, that we certify that the approval of the plan has not been modified, amended, or rescinded, nor the plan has changed, revolving around Phase 6.
Is there a second to Mr. Benugli's motion?
I'll second that. Brian Carroll.
Roll call, Mr. McClone.
Nay.
Mr. Benugli, yay. Mr. Garber,
Yay.
Mr. York.
Nay.
Was that a no?
Mr. York,
No.
what was that again?
No.
Mr. Carroll,
Aye.
Right, passes 3-0.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I do have the plans here. Mr. Carroll, you're the signatory. Would you like for us to keep them at my office and you can stop here and just sign the Phase 6? Would you like me to drop them off at your office? Would you like me to drop them off to the planning board? It's whatever is most convenient for you.
Yeah, the planning board's fine, actually.
I'll drop them off to, okay, I'll drop them off there. There are 2 plans, I think, for for Phase 6, there's just 2 plans.
Okay, no problem.
I think. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry again for the lengthy time, but I do appreciate the board's indulgence. Thank you again.
On 4th Avenue, Katrina,
Yes.
just note Mr. Di Gregorio's involvement somehow with respect to 4th Avenue.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't mention it because I don't even think the other members are aware of it.
Okay, well, I just wanted to make every member aware and to make it stick. If somebody was going to change their vote due to Mr. Di Gregorio, a board member's involvement in that, you should speak now while we're still on the record. Does anybody have a change of vote on that because of Mr. Di Gregorio's involvement? Hearing none.